Welcome to Invisible Strings, where we tug at the little threads that hold our lives together. From mental health and relationships to marriage, motherhood, and all the beautiful chaos in between. I'm Katie, your guide to navigating life's tangled web, one string at a time. Think of this as your weekly dose of insight, sprinkled with a bit of laughter, some heartfelt chats, and maybe even a happy tear or two. So, whether you're juggling a million things or you just need a break, let's untangle life together, because those invisible strings, they're what keep us connected. This is Invisible Strings. Let's get started. Good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome back to Invisible Strings. My name's Katie and I am your host, and I'm so excited to be here for episode number 10, which is crazy. I'm so excited that you have come back and that you have spread the word. You guys, I don't really see the numbers. I don't look for the numbers. I don't really care. Again, my whole point is that if it can help one person, the job has been done. So I did mosey on over to Buzzsprout, which is where my podcast is hosted. And I got a message last week that someone had listened from Royal Kensington in London. And I'm like, Royal Kensington, what is that? And so I looked it up, and in my brain, I was like, oh my gosh, Kate Middleton's listening to the podcast. Here we go. Probably wasn't her, but it was somebody within the royal confines of that family. And I thought that was so cool, because how did she even hear about it? Or how did they even hear about it? Or whoever it was on the other side of the world. And I, made some jokes and sent them to some of my girlfriends. And then I woke up the next morning and someone from Tokyo, Japan listened. What? It's wild to me. I can't even believe that. It's amazing. I'm so happy to be able to reach people on a bigger scale than just, my town. Because in my brain, I'm thinking to myself, cool, everyone in my town is listening. Maybe some friends are listening from back in Northbrook, and maybe some family is listening in California. I am really excited and grateful and hope that I can continue to encourage you and bring on guests that are encouraging. I did just line up guests for the next 5 weeks, which I'm really excited about. We're talking about everything from infertility, losing children, losing spouses, to exercise and nutrition, and mental health for men. So I'm just grateful to have this platform and that people are encouraged by it. And if there's ever anything that you want to hear about, or if you have a story that you want to tell and you think that you can help another person, I would love to hear from you. So make sure that you reach out. Today, I'm excited because this is an exercise I was so inspired by over the weekend that I wanted to bring it to you guys, because I think it can be so helpful and actually so healing. So this last weekend, I went on a retreat with an organization that I'm part of called Shine Teens. And we took our advisory council to Holden Beach, which is a beach in North Carolina. And we got to stay at the beautiful home of Jenny, who was the original founder of Shine Teens. And she so graciously opened her house to us. And we got to spend the weekend there digging in deeper into ourselves, and then learning how to take that light and shine it throughout the communities and the world, really. One of the exercises that we did was really to spark and awaken your authenticity. And I wanted to start this podcast today with that exercise. So I would love it if you could go and look for a picture of yourself when you were little. Maybe you're doing laundry or you're walking or doing something else where you can't find that, and that's fine. But think about that person and think about that picture of yourself before you were the age of 7. Welcome back. Okay, do you have that picture in your mind, or do you have a picture in front of you? If you have that picture in your mind, I want you to look at that picture that you're imagining and look at her face, look at her eyes, look at the way that she is standing or sitting. Um, Remember who you were in that picture and how you were feeling. And I want you to turn inward and take a moment to look back at her and imagine your childhood self, wide eyed, playful, maybe a little chaotic, full of wonder and imagination. She's the purest version of you. Colleges say that by the age of 7, we begin to shape ourselves based on who we think the world wants us to be. Before that, we're just us, less performing, less striving, more essence. That version of you, the one in the photo you brought, hasn't been told to dim her light yet, to play small or carry more than she is meant to. She is still fully herself. Today, I want you to write a letter to her and let this be a moment to remember who she was and reflect on how she's still part of you. You've grown and changed and overcome things she couldn't even imagine, and yet, deep down, she is definitely still in there. Here are some questions to ask yourself in order to write this letter. There is no right way to do this, just right from the heart. Speak to her with love, speak to her gently, and most of all, let her know she's going to grow into someone brave, beautiful, and so full of light. So here's some questions that you can ask yourself. Look over the photo of your childhood self. What do you notice about her? What do you love or admire about her? How would you describe the person you are today to her? How are you still like her? What part of her do you carry with her? What part of her do you carry with you? What's something she's going to go through that she wouldn't expect, but that made her stronger? What's something you wish you could see more clearly about how special or strong she already is? What advice would you give her? Something that might help her when life gets hard. What do you hope she never forgets about who she is at her core? These are all questions that you can think about and write out and eventually write a letter to her. And for me, it was so helpful when we did this. I wasn't really expecting to do this. Like, I wasn't expecting to read it out loud, but I did. Everyone had gone before me. It was actually incredibly emotional. And when my girls were like, Mom, you need to do it, I was like, no, I'm good. And how could they be brave enough to do it? And then me not be brave enough to do it. So I was practicing what I was preaching and I ended up reading it out loud. And it was pretty emotional for me. So with this information, go ahead and write these questions down, answer them, and write yourself a letter. Read them out loud to yourself in the mirror, to your kids, to your husband, to your friends. You can send them to me. I would love to hear them. And feel how incredible it feels to release that inner child and to realize how important she still is and how her little tiny voice still matters. And feel the feels, cry the tears, and let her still be heard. So, let's see. I hope that that could be helpful for you now or down the road whenever you feel like doing it. But I think that it is very healing. And the thing is that we are still probably talking to ourselves the way that we shouldn't be talking to ourselves. And when you look at that picture of that little girl, you would never say the kinds of things that you say to yourself now. You would never say that to a little, you would never say that to your little self. And so the exercise was also really eye opening at the way that we speak to ourselves, that we're not good enough, that we're not strong enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not doing enough, we haven't done enough. And when do you wake up and look in the mirror and be like, you're beautiful, you're strong, you've gone through a lot, you've gotten through a lot, you're important, you're worth it, you matter. I don't think I've ever done that. So I'm just as guilty as everybody else. But what an important habit to start. So one of the things that we talked about, and it wasn't even it wasn't me or Jules or any of the other chaperones that was there, but it was one of the girls. She's a sophomore she's a freshman in high school. And she said that she likes to put up quotes on her mirror. Like she writes on her mirror. My girls do this too, to remind them of things like that they matter and that they're special and they're important and Bible verses and stuff like that. And she's like, why don't you put that little girl on your mirror? Like cut her out and put her in your mirror and look at her every morning and tell her the things that she has been longing to hear since she was a little girl. And I'm just was so surprised by that encouragement from a young woman. And it made so much sense to me and probably makes so much sense to everybody. So I feel like that is something that would be really powerful and impactful for all of us to do, to stick that little picture of our little selves up on the mirror and talk to that little picture like you should talk to yourself. So here's something that I've learned. The longer you hold on to something, you don't talk about it, you don't get rid of it, the heavier it gets. So like imagine a 10-pound weight. You're holding it, you're like, cool, this is easy. Like I got this. And in the beginning, of course. But then as the time goes on, it starts to get heavier and you keep holding on to it. And then you add another 10 pounds and another 10 pounds and another 10 pounds, and it becomes too heavy to hold. And so, what do we do with that stuff? We need to get rid of it. We don't want to feel heavy. We don't want to feel bogged down. We want to feel um, light and free. And the only way that we can do that is by getting rid of whatever that weight is, whether it's shame or insecurity or disappointment. We as women have become masters at stuffing and smiling. For example, maybe already today someone said, hey, how's it going? How's your day? Great. How is yours? Great. I bet neither of you are probably great. But we've never learned how to communicate properly with people or how to receive communication properly. And so we continue just to stuff and bear it. And what most of us women don't understand is that we're all walking around with the same problems, the same insecurities, the same issues, the same questions, the same sadness. And unless you learn how to communicate it properly, it just stays inside of us. That feels so silly to me. I know that when I start talking about anything, whether it's anxiety or being a mom or a wife or anything, people feel safe and they start talking about the same stuff. And we realize very quickly that we're all dealing with the same kinds of stuff. We're all the same. We're all humans. We're all women. We're all um, probably working towards very similar goals. And it's so important to learn the proper ways of communicating so that you can hear what people are saying and you can be heard and feel like what you're saying matters. I think that this negative self-talk, it's obviously a bad habit and it's really a reflection of our wounded inner child. So you can see why it's so important to write yourself this letter and to kind of release her and let her know how important she is. And maybe she wasn't heard at 5 years old, but she's being heard now. And, it's hard to hear other people talk about how much they hate their body or that they're failing or they're broken or they're too much or they're not enough. So when I see myself one way and I'm talking to myself badly, my husband gets so frustrated because he's like, I don't see you that way. Like, you're so beautiful. You're always so beautiful. You're so sweet. You're so kind, all these things. And I don't see myself the same way. And he gets irritated and frustrated. And I feel like that's how we feel about our kids too, right? Like when our kids start saying things that are not correct and not right, we get the same way. We get frustrated, we get irritated, but they haven't learned how to communicate properly so that they don't have to carry that stuff anymore. They don't have to carry these heavy loads. We don't have to. And that's one of the things that I felt was such a positive from this exercise was I felt like we really could kind of release the things that we were feeling as young kids and that we carried with us as adults. So we probably had like 50 or 60 pounds of stuff that we're carrying with us that we don't need to be carrying. We need to get rid of those things. We need to talk to that little girl sweetly, the same way we would talk to our 5-year-old daughters. We've gotten so far. We've grown so much. We've gone through so many things, good and bad. And it's important to recognize that and call it out and really take back that self confidence that we lost as a young girl. So I think a lot of the things that we still need as women that we probably don't recognize, we still need to be told that we're safe. Maybe some of you didn't feel safe as kids. Maybe things weren't safe. Maybe you didn't have parents that would keep you safe. And if you didn't feel that as a child, it's probably pretty evident that you don't feel it as an adult. And that's something that we still need to feel as grown women. We need to be told that we're not a burden. I think that a lot of us were told that we were burdens as kids. And I think that there's still a culture right now, this mom culture that is women that haven't been taught the proper way of communicating and are holding on to all of these burdens and they're repeating the same behavior that their parents had when they were little. And what's the saying? Kids shouldn't be heard, they should only be seen. Like people still feel that way now. I know plenty of moms that would rather go out and drink and travel and party than be with their kids. And that's something that is a way of running away from things that have hurt you in the past. And that's why these kind of exercises are so important for us, especially so that we can heal that child and we don't have to repeat these behaviors to our children now as they get older, because children are not burdens. They should never feel like they're burdens, and they should always feel like they're loved and that they're important, and that they need to be heard and they need to be seen. So we still need to know that we're not burdens. We need to realize that we don't have to perform to be loved. We don't have to be checking things off of a list to be loved. We don't have to be working a really big job and making a lot of money to be loved. We need to realize that we can be loved exactly how we are. We need to be told that we can still be silly and messy and beautiful, and we can do it all at the exact same time. This perfectionism type A personality that people kind of boast about, like, I'm type A, like you're bragging about it. Don't brag about that. That can't be easy to feel that way. And it can't be easy to live in that personality, that A type personality. That's literally a coping mechanism for anxiety and needing to be in control of things. We need to not place that kind of thing up on a shelf like that's something you should be proud of. We need to be flexible. We need to be bendable. We don't need to be in control. I know that's probably a very unpopular opinion, but from someone who used to need to be in control all the time, I can promise you that the breath that you will have when it doesn't feel like you have someone squeezing your throat all the time is absolutely, undeniably amazing. So be silly, be messy, and be beautiful, and show that to your kids. Demonstrate that. We also need to also be told that we do need to be seen and heard and protected and encouraged. And I know that a lot of us didn't feel that way as kids. And that's something that I hope you can find as an adult and then heal that as your inner child. So when you wake up in the morning, and I've assumed you've already taped your picture to the mirror of yourself, I want you to start by saying to her, you're worthy of love just as you are. You don't have to earn your place in this world, and God delights in you, not the filtered version of you, just you. Healing isn't always a massive breakthrough. Sometimes it's whispering kindness to your reflection. I know that a lot of us have dealt with traumas and labels and shame from when we were younger. I dealt with labels. So when I was in first grade, my parents had my hearing checked and I was delayed in hearing. And they felt like I had been delayed for a while. And so I had to get tubes put in my ears. And back in the day, they didn't put you to sleep before they took you back to do the surgery. And they do that now, obviously. But back in the day, they did not do it. And they brought me back without being asleep. I was totally awake. I felt very safe. I felt very taken care of. I wasn't scared at all. And they asked me to lay down and they put a mask on my face, a gas mask. And I can still smell it right now. Like it was so traumatic for me. And I was like, oh no, absolutely not. And I threw it off my face. And these doctors and nurses came over and pushed me down and held me down on the table and held the mask on my face. And that was it. My mom said I walked into that hospital a carefree, happy child, and I left a terrified child. And from what my mom said, I don't think that I talked about it right away. And once I did, it was like I trusted nobody. I would not trust doctors. I would not want to go to the doctor or have any sort of procedure done. I was really, really scared. And so the anxiety started. I mean, I know we talked about the anxiety starting as a freshman in high school. That was like a revisiting of anxiety. It really did start as a first grader. After I had my tubes put in my ears, the school suggested that I repeat first grade because they didn't think I'd heard enough. And my parents were like, okay, that sounds great. And so I was already like the youngest in the class. My birthday's the end of July. And so I repeated first grade, but with the repeating of first grade and everyone going on to second and me staying, kids already could see really like their surroundings. And I was made fun of all the time. I was made fun of and told I was stupid. They used the R word, just like horrible labels that imprinted on me at an early age. So I've never felt smart enough. And I've had to work really hard to realize that I am incredibly intelligent, and my self confidence was basically destroyed at that point. And I've had to work really hard on my self confidence. And for me, I found that in Christ. So that's not going to be for everybody, but for me, that's where I found it. And that's when all of that came back. That's where all of it came back from. My 5-year-old picture was really through what I look like in the eyes of God and how I was made in his perfect image, and how I am here for a reason and a purpose. And that is where the bulk of my confidence came from. Also, from him healing this anxiety and panic that I was dealing with, and being able to share my story and being open. I've been open about it since high school. It was very shameful for a while. I know that my parents were shamed. I know that there are other parents that I thought were safe people in my life that were basically making fun of me and my mom, while we were going through such an awful time. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine someone going through an awful time in their life, and as an adult, you're making fun of a child? Those people had to be incredibly hurt people to do that to somebody instead of coming to their aid and helping them. Well, I would say for me, emotional burdens that I carried from childhood would be trauma, labels, and shame. And when I wrote my letter to myself over the weekend, I started off by saying, I see you, Katie girl. It's what my dad always calls me, and I think it's so cute. I see that you're already struggling with anxiety and you've got a long road ahead of you, but you're going to come out on the other end and you're going to help so many people. And where I'm at now, and I'm very grateful and thankful for that. When you think about your childhood and when you were younger, what do you think about? Like, what are your labels? What was your trauma? What was your shame that you're still carrying today into adulthood? Think about how you see yourself and think about how you are putting that, and not on purpose, but let's change that. Are you putting that on your own children, your own spouse, your own friends? Can you recognize that if you stop and think about it? It's hard to do that. It's hard to think that because you haven't had the ability to unpack the things that happened to you as a child, that you potentially are maybe putting some of that on your own children. So let's talk about how we can release what was really never meant to be ours, right? Things that we aren't meant to be carrying still, to lessen that burden, to be more present, to feel lighter, and not just intellectually, but for your body, your heart, your spirit. Here are a couple, I think, powerful steps to begin letting those things go. Like, sit here and think about it. Name it. Name the label. You can't heal what you can't name, right? So ask yourself, what did I believe about myself before I ever got the chance to become me? Some examples are, I'm unlovable, I'm hard to handle, I'm always messing things up, or I'm invisible. I think it would be helpful to write them down, then call them out. Lies lose power in the light. That's powerful. Lies lose power in the light. Then we're going to return it. This is going to sound kind of strange, but I want you to picture that label as an actual object. A backpack, a sticky note, a sign someone made you wear. Now imagine handing it back to where it came from. The teacher who shamed you, the parent who didn't understand you, or the culture that tried to shrink you. This does not belong to me anymore. If you're a visual person, write the label on a piece of paper and rip it up or burn it. Or write it on your journal and draw a line through it. Now I want you to replace it with the truth. God never leaves us empty. And when we release a lie, we need to replace it with the truth. Instead of I'm too much, say I'm wonderfully made. Instead of I always mess things up, say I'm learning and growing, I'm not finished yet. And instead of saying I'm unlovable, say God rejoices over me with singing. The enemy would love for you to believe those lies forever. Keep you in that bondage and continue it in your own daughters and sons. But Jesus came to break chains, not hand out new ones. Now let's look at that baby picture again. The one that you're going to put on your mirror. She doesn't need a bossy inner critic. She needs a loving, protective, gentle parent. Speak life over her. Say, you're safe now. You don't have to earn love anymore. You are not what happened to you. You are allowed to rest. I think that's probably a really hard one for most of us. And I'm taking care of you now. I would love for you guys to join me in this guided reflection if you can. If you're not driving. If you're driving, don't do this. But I want you to close your eyes. I want you to take a deep breath and picture that little girl. Picture her dropping that backpack full of labels. She's lighter. She's smiling. Now imagine Jesus kneeling down to her, placing his hand on her head and whispering, "You are mine. I've been here the whole time." You don't have to carry what they gave you. You don't have to wear what they labeled you. You are free to become who God created you to be, fully, freely, and without shame. You guys, thank you so much for listening this week. This was a little bit different, but I just felt like it was so impactful this weekend for me. I wanted to share it with you. I hope that it helps somebody out there, at least one person. I'm praying that it helps one of you. And it was so powerful to me. I didn't realize the stuff that I unpacked, that I even needed to unpack it. I didn't realize that I felt that way. I didn't realize that I was holding on to things that I was holding on to. And it truly did make me feel freer. And I want everyone to feel that way. So try it out. If you need someone to read it to, I am here to listen. And I wanted to end with just this little kind of poem that I put together. And then I'll let you guys go. But make sure to check in next week because we are going to have some special guests for the next 4 weeks. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear them. So make sure you tune in again next week. And thanks for tuning in this week. Can you look at yourself in the mirror? What do you notice? Is it your dark circles? The one insecurity you can't unsee? Probably not all the amazing things you have to offer. But let me ask you something. Would you talk to a little girl the way you talk to yourself? If your 7-year-old self sit in front of you, would you say, "You're not enough. You're falling behind. You'll never get it together"? Of course not. And yet, that's the voice we carry in our head every single day. Today, we're talking about her, the little girl still inside of you, and how to start showing her the kindness, compassion, and grace you always deserved. Have a great week. Thank you for joining me today on this episode of Invisible Strings, where we've tugged at a few threads and hopefully left you with a smile and something to think about. Remember, life's connections might be invisible, but they're oh so strong. If you enjoyed today's chat, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little string pulling in their life. Until next time, keep those invisible strings intact, and I'll see you back here soon for more heartfelt conversations and a dash of fun. Stay connected, stay kind, and keep untangling.